we're doing that. So we can do that and we can put it on YouTube. So I was giving Steve Atinsky a little bit of grief in the green room earlier because it's like I was going to send out like a lifeboat. Like, where has Steve Atinsky been? Glad to have you back, Steve.
You look good.
I'm
Steve.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we got the blue memo to match the sign. We got the
Yes,
blue
I got
thing going on.
on. Yeah.
Tom and Gabe didn't get the memo, but
I got blue elements of blue on my
okay.
collar.
There you go.
Chill, Jules.
No,
I got the memo. I pay
No,
attention.
I've got blue in my soul.
I
That's
got
it,
blue.
baby.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm gonna change the subject now.
Born with the blues.
So before we get to some great recommendations for everybody, I have to give a little bit of good news about Warwick's for those of you that are in San Diego, but maybe some of you that are outside of San Diego. Today, the city of San Diego declared it Warwick's Day. So we got a proclamation from the city. And today is National
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers to Warwick's Day.
Cheers.
For those of us who have anything to.
Yeah, everything to drink. Yeah, so it was for what we bring to the community and celebrating our 125 years. So that was really fun. So there'll be some more little stuff on social media about that. So because I think today is National Book Day, or is it it's another national day? Something.
I think it is National Book Day.
National Book Day. So
or Book Reading Day or something.
So kind of fun that we got a proclamation on that day. So there you go. So lots more fun stuff with Warwick Center. So for back to the 125th anniversary, start looking for some stuff on our e-blasts. We're gonna probably starting in like September, we're gonna have some fun ways for people to earn gift cards and stuff, little trivia contests and things. So if you're not on our e-blast, get on that. What else? I think that's about it. Amanda's in the background. She's going to put everybody's books in. Some good things are coming this week. And I think the two books that I'm going to talk about, we've already talked about before, but I kind of like bringing stuff back up again because maybe somebody missed it or, it doesn't hurt. So the order that
needs a reminder.
Exactly. You never know. So the order that we're going to go in today is going to be Steve, Gabe, and Tom. And then I'll throw my little 2 cents in every now and then. So take it away, Steve.
All right. Thanks, Julie. Happy Warwick's Day. The first book I'm going to talk about, if it's coming through here, is Ghost. It's a new novel by Dolly Alderton. I know, Gabe, you're familiar with Dolly's from her book of essays. And this came out last Tuesday. And this one's a novel. So, and it's a rom-com. I think it kind of falls between Sex and the City and Fleabag in tone and humor. And she's English, so it's Humour. And it's set in London. And the main character's name is Nina. She's a successful writer, a journalist, much like Dolly herself. She's in her 30s. And she doesn't do much online dating, in fact, never, but she goes on this dating app and she meets this really great guy, and it's a great relationship and everything's going swell until she says she loves him, and then nothing, all communication goes blank. She's been ghosted. And it's not just this, everything in her life seems to be changing and she's not dealing with it well. And like Dolly, the writer, Nina, the character, she's wickedly funny. She's not always likable. She's very judgmental. She judges her mother in the way she's dealing with the father's Alzheimer, the character's father in this. And also her best friend is getting married. Her male best friend is getting married, and she was actually in a relationship with this guy. It was the best relationship she ever had. Now he's getting married to someone else. And then her best friend, female best friend, is moved out of the city, and she's just really missing her friendship with that woman as well. There's a great quote on the cover from Taylor Jenkins Reid. Ghost is an absolute knockout, wickedly funny, and it turns both cynical and sincere. And as I mentioned at the beginning, she had a book of essays, just came out in paperback, Gabe's book, Everything I Know About Love. And she is a working journalist in London.
Love it. Those I love you words are deadly.
Yes.
They literally ghost people.
Player don't want to hear that. Player doesn't want to hear that.
Exactly. It's like you want to turn a table real quick, just say those three little words. Maybe that's the trick when you want to like get somebody to like stop being around you, just tell them that you love them.
Yeah,
And they'll run for the hills.
Yes.
We turned into an advice show.
No, that book sounds really good, but oh my God, I love that. That's so hilarious. Okay, Gabe, what do you got for us?
I got to inform you that today is National Rice Pudding Day, National Veep Day, and National Book Lovers Day.
There you go. Okay, so what was the first one?
Rice pudding. Who doesn't love rice pudding?
Rice pudding. I have a really good rice pudding recipe. So what was that? What was it in the Hangover movies? The second one where the dad calls the guy he's like dough. It's because he's like, so what? Never mind. I digress. It's a bad rice joke. Okay, give us a book recommendation.
I'm gonna give you a book recommendation before things get really out of control here.
Yeah.
So I'm starting with a first novel, Edge Case, by Yi's Chin. And this is a novel of today. This is a novel of what's happening right now in America on the tech front, on the marriage front, relationship front, immigration front. It's a really, it's a serious novel. It's a literary novel. It's a serious novel. Got a great quote from the New York Times. Entertainment Weekly gave us a great quote. We received a couple of starred reviews from the early reviewers on this book. And it is a novel about a couple, Edwina and Marlon, who are here from Asia. And they're working in a tech firm in New York. So one day Edwina comes home and Marlon's case is packed and he's gone. And she has no idea whether he's just left the marriage, whether he's gone back home, has no idea exactly what's going on. You know, is he in Malaysia? Is he in New York? Did he move to California? What happened to this guy? So as she proceeds with her life, of course, she's got an overbearing mother who she hasn't told about Marlon leaving yet, but she's going to have to eventually because mother is on her all the time. And she's got this job that she's got to negotiate. They've been waiting for their green card, so she's negotiating their immigration status. Did he just walk away from, you know, the lifetime dream of getting residency in the United States, legal residency in the U.S.? What is going on with Marlon? She's worried about him. She's worried about herself. She walks the streets looking for traces of Marlon. And it becomes sort of a meditation that she, you know, is everything that is going on in her life is processed through her lens and through her brain. And I just think that Chin does a really great job of giving you this very multifaceted individual who is in a strange land, fish out of water, negotiating a world she doesn't really understand. Both, you know, from her now her marriage is blown up. She's, you know, thinking back on what was the hinge that pushed the marriage over the end, you know, over the edge. There's so much that she's looking at as she examines every aspect of her life, and I just thought it was really, really well done, really subtly done. You get really into her life without being too claustrophobic. She's got a really great cast of secondary characters that she brings to life and bring the book a lot of life as well. So really one of those books that was surprisingly readable, surprisingly entertaining, surprisingly funny. I was expecting a certain kind of a book, and I got what I was expecting, but a whole lot more. So it was a real fun joy to read this book. Not terribly fat, pretty slim volume. And we got a great package on it. I think we nailed this jacket, and I you know, it's something that I think it's got a lot of room to grow. And I think in paperback, if we can hopefully get it a good enough readership, it'll be a great paperback book club book. A lot to discuss, a lot to talk about.
Yeah. You're right. The cover's
personal
fantastic.
It is.
Yeah, really good package. So yeah, hope it gets the sounds really good. Hope it gets the readership that it needs. Hopefully here. Get some people to read it here. All right, Tom, what do you got for us?
All right, my first book is on sale tomorrow. It's a hardcover. In the Country of Others. Can we see that? By Layla Slimani. So there's a great feature in today's New York Times about her. And the headline kind of sums it all up. Layla Slimani has written about a sex addict in Adele, a murderous nanny in The Perfect Nanny. Next up, her own family. Her new novel is modeled on her grandmother's immigration from France to Morocco amid Morocco's fight for independence. So I love when writers, I mean, I don't think this is the same reader really, I mean, as The Perfect Nanny. I mean, I love when writers stretch themselves and challenge themselves. So she's telling a big story on a big canvas. So it's based on her grandmother's life. It begins during World War II when Matilda, who's the grandmother character, is a young French woman who falls in love with a Moroccan soldier in the French army. After the war, they settle in Morocco. So it's really about a French woman who is out of, a fish out of water, so to speak, in Morocco. She's learning the culture, she's raising children, but ultimately forced to defy the country's chauvinism, repressive social codes, especially about women. So it's rich history, but it's also got a political side, which I think she's going to carry forward. This is the beginning of a trilogy. So volume 1, the next volume is going to take the characters into the 60s, and she'll focus on her mother's generation. And then I'm sure in the third volume she gets to her own generation. So she's telling a big story of Morocco and France and how they relate to each other, and immigration, colonialism. It's a big canvas, and it's still the same sensual writing as you got in the other books, but a bigger story. So on sale tomorrow in hardcover, In the Country of Others by Layla Slimani.
Who's a pub on that? Is that a Viking book?
That's Viking.
Viking, yeah.
And it's the first hardcover. She had done the first 3 books we did by her, including The Perfect Nanny, were paperback originals from Penguin. Right. And now she's made the jump to hardcover.
Yeah, good for her. Yeah, sounds really good. So,
yeah,
those are the things that talk about book clubs. Those are the things that people like, those meaty books to get into.
Yeah, and I think she'll find a new audience of readers of really good historical fiction with this book.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to talk to you real quick about, I think Amanda's already talked about this, so I won't talk about it too long. But and she told me that it got reviewed in the New York Times over the weekend, not very well. And I was just like, well, that makes me unhappy because I loved this book. I thought it was so good. It was just the perfect book for me, for whatever reason, whatever I had just finished. It's a fable, so you have to suspend realism a little bit because the animals talk. Basically, what they do is the humans have created the calamity. And so the Council of Animals gets together and has a vote on whether they should eliminate the remaining humans that have survived this calamity. And so it's got so many things. Well, it's a little thin book, but it's charming and clever and thought-provoking and everything you want in a little book that's a fable book. So I loved it. So whoever wrote the New York Times thing, sorry. I disagree with you.
You're right, Julie. You're right.
Well, I guess one of the comments was that it didn't go far enough in like the position that they were trying to make. And it's just like, but sometimes you can't push too hard on that. Sometimes you have to leave it up to people to kind of form their own opinions on things. Here comes Amanda.
I just realized the person who reviewed it is Lydia Millett, the author of the Children's Bible. So
oh God, and I love that book.
Love that book.
Yeah.
Well, okay, Lydia.
Books hit all of us differently.
She didn't totally pan it. It was a very thoughtful review. I would say
that's interesting though that's who wrote it, because the Children's Bible didn't really push that hard either. I mean, it pushed. I read both of them, so I know of what I'm talking on this subject.
I think, sometimes people expect, I've seen reviewers sort of skew, not necessarily negatively, but not so enthusiastically when the book isn't exactly what they were expecting. So,
it was similar. So her book dealt with kind of a post-apocalyptic thing too. And some of the things that she did with, she didn't have any talking animals in her book, but these kids kind of take over and build a world, or kind of take over for what they want the world to be, because the adults have just screwed it up. So interesting that Lydia did that. I'm not sure she's not going to watch this. So
reviews are funny that, I'm not a big review reader necessarily, because I know what I like. And if a John Irving comes out and
I'm going to read it.
I'm going to read it.
I'm the same way.
And not to say that this is what Lydia did, but I mean, some reviewers are critics just to be critics too. They want to find something that is, so anyways, I digress. I thought the Council of Animals was charming. I loved it. There you go. Steve, what do you got?
Okay. Well, that's all that counts.
Is that Julie liked it.
Your review. Yeah.
Right? It's my show here.
On Warwick's Day.
On Warwick's Day. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks.
Julie decrees.
As the mayor. Oh, I said I wasn't going to sing that song.
Too late. All right.
Save me.
Okay.
Gotcha.
My next book that I'm going to talk about is actually a graphic novel called...
And one of the graphic novels that I actually read, and I never read graphic novels.
And I never read graphic novels either, but with this one, I had already sold it, and a lot of booksellers were asking me for advanced copies, and I was just hearing so many good things about it that I actually read it, and I loved it. And it's been getting incredible write-ups and reviews. At the end of the year, they'll probably be nominated for Best Graphic Novel of the Year. I can't see how it won't be. And the title again is Seek You, A Journey Through American Loneliness. The author is Kristen Radke. The book came out last month. And the book's title kind of is a nod to amateur or ham radio operators do a CQ call. It's kind of is anybody out there? I'm sending out an SOS kind of thing. And these are just really beautifully written and illustrated essays on loneliness. And she kind of takes us through a history of loneliness in a way, and longing, interesting facts. She explores such diverse things as the image of the Marlboro Man, the soul cowboy, and that image, and how the laugh track came into being. It's really kind of she just puts things together in a very interesting way. And I mean, as I was saying it's just earlier, the reviews have just poured in tremendously strong. Boston Globe, Daily Beast, Vogue, Washington Post, Book Riot, even Elle, had it on the top of its summer reading list. And then I'll just read one quote from Library Journal and leave you with that. In often poetic prose, accompanied by stunning illustration, Radke weaves together personal anecdotes and examples drawn from physical and mental health studies to create a meditation on the causes and cost of isolation, an insightful and compassionate investigation of loneliness.
It was really good. And especially coming off of a pandemic year where people were very isolated, it really touched, it was good.
Exactly. It really hits home.
Yeah. No, it was very good. And like I said, I never read graphic novels, but that was one that piqued my interest and it delivered. So I love that. Yeah. Okay, Gabe, what's your next pick?
And for the ambulance to pass.
Oh, that's all right. You might think you're in New York.
One of those movies. Yeah, wise guy. So my next book is been out a couple of weeks already. This was Farewell to Gabo and Mercedes. It is a son's memoir. It is Rodrigo Garcia Marquez writing about his father's last days. as his mother calls him, begins when his mother calls him and tells him, your father's, getting really sick. I think it's serious. He's had some dementia and it's kicking in really strongly. And Rodrigo thinks this is where it begins, where the end begins. The Garcia Marquez, I think, I'm not going to say arguably, he is one of the greatest novelists of the 20th century. I think, he opened Latin America up, shone a light on colonialism, was a big factor in a lot of the movements in Central America. He was branded a communist. They wouldn't let him come to America because he was concerned with the dignity of others. So, he was a really interesting guy and apparently a really decent fellow and beloved by his children. And this is just like a love song from a son to his father and mother, who his mom passed away in Mercedes passed away in 2020, so about a year ago, right when he started writing this. So he incorporates a little more of her in this. But she was, a lot of people don't know about Mercedes. She was his muse. She was by him. They were together 50 some years, maybe more. They had 2 kids. They were together for like a bunch of years. Then they got married. They had kids. A really interesting life. And I think he shines a really interesting light on Garcia Marquez as a human being and what one of the greatest writers of his era brought to the world, aside from this wonderful literature. But a look at Garcia Marquez as a human being and the relationship with his wife that spans such a long time. It's really lovely. We got a great quote here from Salman Rushdie, the quote from my boy from LA, the Easy Rollins. How can I draw him?
Walter Mosley.
Walter Mosley, thank you. I can remember his books. I can't remember the author. So Walter writes a really lovely note. Rodrigo's been living in LA, Southern California for a long time. He's involved in the movies at some level. He's up and around town. So he's a local Southern Californian for a good chunk of the year. But I just think, it's a wonderful celebration. The reviews have been great. The LA Times picked it as the LA Times Book Club book for the month. And I think it's something that, we published it kind of quickly. It snuck through the cracks a little bit. I think anybody who's interested in Garcia Marquez and his legacy will be interested in checking this book out. 176 pages, lovely read, really well written. And I think we got a lot of people who would be interested. Good wide audience, I think, for this book.
Yeah, anything by him is worth celebrating. He's just.
And Kate, didn't he accept I feel like his father won an award at the LA Times, and he was there to accept the award, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Really beautiful speech, I remember.
And we can talk after we get off of this, but I'm curious, the LA Times Book Club selections, how is that going in LA? Is that something that's still hit or miss?
It's going. I mean, we get some readers. There's some readers. It's hard to measure from where I sit.
Huge. They get huge these days, virtual crowds.
Okay. Good.
But it's hard to measure the sales all around, I think.
Yeah. But they do have an event around it.
There's enthusiasm.
Yeah, each one.
The
current one, I think, is it's monthly, right?
Yeah, it's
and I think
Billie Jean King's autobiography is this month, and I think sometimes it depends. Sometimes their selections are books that have been out a while, and so sometimes people just go to tune in for they've already
read it. Yeah.
But with Billie Jean King, the book hasn't come out yet, so there is a lot more people interested in buying the book ahead of time and
got it. Is it strictly them, or are they partnering with the library?
They're partnering. This is with they're with Pages.
Okay.
This one. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, so they pick it.
Yeah.
Cool.
It revolves.
Evolve. Yeah.
It's the wrong word, but
it's just their thing, though. It's not affiliated with the library, or it's just the LA Times.
Yeah.
Okay, San Diego Union Tribune,
cool.
if you're watching.
Yes.
Anywho, Tom, what's your next choice?
My next book is Nick Butler's Godspeed. So I never read him before. His most famous book is his first novel, I think, Shotgun Love Songs, which was a favorite of indie booksellers. So I haven't read the other books, but I read this one and could not put it down. I have a sense it's a departure in some ways from his previous books, which is about the relationships between men and work, but that's in here too. But it's a ticking clock book. So it's set in Jackson, Wyoming, so glamorous mountain town. And the owner of this, the owner of a property is building a house. She is a rich San Francisco attorney. She finds 3 contractors who she hires to build this house in an absolutely impossible schedule. So she says, I need this house finished in like 3 months. It's impossible. But they can't but greed starts to work its way through their systems, and they think, let's try this. It's our ticket, and bad things happen. But because it's told in this ticking clock time frame, that the suspense just keeps ratcheting up and ratcheting up. And I read an interview with Nick Butler where he said the germ of the idea came when he was talking to a builder, contractor friend, who was offered something similar to this. And he said, his friend said to him, Nick, if we had all the meth in the world, there's no way we could have finished that house in 3 weeks. Well, that was the idea, that meth gets introduced to these characters in this book. So meth plays a role. It's unbelievable. So it's like books like A Simple Plan, or movies like The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. You watch these men make mistake after mistake. Blood is shed, but you can't stop turning the pages, and you root for them. You hope that somehow they survive this impossible task. We have a quote from C.J. Box, who knows everything about Wyoming. He says, Godspeed is a page-turning, race-against-the-clock novel about fatal obsession, love, violence, addiction, and faith, beautifully set in my home state of Wyoming. After you turn the last page, it'll stay with you for a long, long time. And I can testify to that. I read this many months ago, and I can't get it out of my head. These characters, it's dark. It is dark, but I think, it's a thriller. So, Godspeed, Nick Butler.
Okay, well, I might have to read that, because the one that I'm going to talk about is like dark light for me.
Okay, yeah, this is dark. It just gets darker.
I like the dark stuff, but I just finished, and I think Gabe's already talked about this book, but I wanted to talk about it too, because I thoroughly enjoyed this book. The Lost Apothecary. So you did talk about it, Gabe, didn't you?
Yeah. I had to show that jacket. It's a great jacket.
It's a great jacket, and it's a good book. My book club picked it, so we're going to talk about it, I think, next Wednesday. And so it's really well done. And that's, for me, it's like, that's got to be one of the things where it's just like, it's got to have some plausibility to it. And, when things are happening and things, because you have to have the, little plot devices where you get people to do certain things and go certain places. Sometimes they're too contrived, but this really, the things that happened were like, you could believe that they happened, and it's 2 time periods. It's the late 1700s England, and an apothecary who is just, her mother's passed. And so she dispenses poison to the local gentry who want to do away with whoever they're. So while it has that dark element, it's not done in a way that's dark like Tom's book. And then it's a modern story, which I thought was super fascinating, mudlarking, which I had never heard of before. And it's like, I want to go to England and do it. So this modern day woman goes at the Thames and finds this little vial that links her back to the 1700s. So it's two parallel stories going on. I thought it was great. I mean, the only link between the two is that she found this vial. She's got her own like personal story that's going on. But anyways, I thought it was really good. So and I think it was on the New York Times for a while too. So other people, I think, thought it was good too. So kind of that perfect end of summer sort of read, where it's not too heavy, but it's got some good stuff going.
Takes you away, puts you in
a
completely different landscape for a little bit, and you're in a different time period, and it's just you're there.
Yeah, you are there.
Really
and she did a really good, like I said, because I mean, a plot has to have certain things happen where it has to take you different places, and like the mudlarking being one of them. And I was like, ooh, I kind of want to go do that. I need to go to London and go mudlarking. Anyways, okay, Steve, lightning round.
That sounds really good. I love me a good historical novel, especially set in Britain. So
Yeah, it was
that
good.
sounds really good.
Yeah,
In
it
fact,
was
I have sort of not too far back historical novel. This is a book that's coming out in paperback tomorrow. It was in hardcover last fall. It's by Graham Swift. Here we are.
like that
And
new cover.
yeah, very beautiful new cover on it. And he's kind of he's an English novelist, of course, and he's sort of a master of character and place. You know, he's just so good at that. He won the Booker Prize for Last Orders, which I did not read, but the last novel that came out, Mothering Sunday, I adored. It was a bookseller, and it was really a favorite among all the sales reps who sold it a few years ago. It's just a beautiful little novel, and this is also a really nice, tight character novel. And on Mothering Sunday, there's going to be a film version with Olivia Colman and Colin Firth.
Oh, I love her. Oh, God,
Yeah,
really?
Good
Good
combo,
cast.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Here We Are is mostly set in Brighton in the summer of 1959 in the music hall on the Pier. If you ever saw Laurence Olivier's The Entertainer, it's kind of that's the setting. And the story revolves around a love triangle between three of the performers. One, his name is Ronnie. He's a young, brilliant magician. And the second main character is Evie, who is his beautiful and very clever, intelligent assistant. And then there's Jack, who's the MC of the show. He's really charming and funny, lots of experience. He's a mentor to these two young people. And what begins and this is, pun is intended, as a magical summer ends with the disappearance of one of the three people. And one of my favorite parts of the book is about Ronnie when he's a young boy, and it's during the Blitz. And during the Blitz, of course, the children, they sent them all out to the country, and he's sent to live in the countryside with this older couple that didn't have children. And the man was an amateur magician, and he teaches Ronnie all the tricks of the trade. And that's, in some ways, that was my favorite part of the book. And I'll just read one quote that came in. Beautiful, gentle, intricate. Here we are. Smuggles or snuggles, I don't know if I wrote that correctly, maybe both, within the pages of a seemingly commonplace tale, depths of emotion, it is smuggles, depths of emotion and narrative complexity that take the breath away. So there you have it.
Love it. Did we make up a new word?
Here we are, yes.
It's a new use for an old word.
Smuggles. I like it.
Smuggles.
All right, Gabe, what's your lightning
That sounds
round?
great.
Finish us off. And big plug for there's a few authors who I have most of their books. I don't know what happened to my early like Shuttlecock and Swimming Lessons, the story collection. I mean, those were like from 83, 84,
Wow.
86, something like that. I go way back with Graham Swift. I loved Last Orders, the novel and the movie. It's got all those old Great Britain. They're not even that old. They just seem that old. Great Brit actors in it. It's just such a fun movie. And I am going to talk about an author who has been pretty quiet for the last 20 years. Lewis Edwards won a Guggenheim Fellowship years ago, Whiting Award-winning author, writing an epic story of Ramadan Ramsey, a young man born in New Orleans to very different parents from two different worlds. And Alicia is his mama, who he's native New Orleans, African American. She's starting her life, and she meets Mustafa Toda. Mustafa is the only name I can remember from. She meets him. They get together. They have a baby, and the her husband goes back, disappears, goes back, and she is left to carry the child herself, and creates a really unique human being. So I've been trying to find a comp for this novel. It's got a real magical sense to it almost. It's a little picaresque as Ramadan picks up after Katrina picks up his bag and goes in search of his father. And so we're trekking across the world with Ramadan. And it's quite a really interesting and fun journey. It's a book that I don't know if I've ever read this book before in a way. You always are like, I've read everything in the world. It just, the cover changes, the picture changes, character's name changes. This I just found a little bit different, but definitely a novel of a journey. A young man on the cusp of manhood and trying to find his identity and who he is. And I think Lewis Edwards does a really tremendous job of this. We got to start Kirkus Review. We got to start Publishers Weekly Review. I think more reviews will be coming as the book goes on sale tomorrow. We'll see more and more reviews in papers and magazines and such. But I think it's one of these authors that the world has been waiting to hear from again. And I'm really excited that we have the opportunity to bring him back. And I think he's in high gear. This really is a really readable, immersive, big novel. Not particularly fat, but definitely feels epic in its way. So I'm a big fan. I'd never read Edwards before. I'd heard of him. I read about him. It's not anybody I'd ever read before, but I was very impressed by this book. It does not feel like 320 pages.
Need to put it on their list. Speaking of lists, Elizabeth, there's Elizabeth on here saying, Tom, Godspeed sold. Putting it on her TBR list. And then Kim LaRue's on here, read The Lost Apothecary and said she loved it. So
good.
So there's 3 people who loved it on their show today. Okay, Tom, what do you got for our lightning round?
My lightning round. Kicking off in a way about what Gabe was saying with reading a book that you haven't read before, and that's how it's very different from his book, but that's how I felt with True Story by Kate Reed Petty. This came out in hardcover last year, and I really think it was a victim of one of the many victims of the pandemic because it got incredible reviews, but just never connected with readers because we weren't able to find that audience. And now out in paperback last week. So what made it new to me, like I'm always looking to be surprised, and this book delivered that. It starts off with a character named Alice, who is a ghostwriter so she's telling other people's stories, but she can't seem to tell the story that is most, private to her. She's haunted by this story from her high school years, the truth behind a vicious rumor about her from high school. It deals with sexual assault, but the way she tells this story of what really happened, and we're getting it from all different angles. She does it through genre. So there's a horror chapter. There is a chapter told through screenplay, more than one. There's a whole chapter told through emails. So she's playing with the form of genre. Really brilliantly and ingeniously. My favorite of these kind of chapters is it's a chapter of college essays. It consists of the revisions of a college essay, and as the essay is revised, you're learning more and more about the person writing the college essay. It's absolutely brilliant. So I love the way she plays with genre, and it keeps you turning the pages. This is one of my favorite books of 2020, and it really deserves to be rediscovered. This is a favorite of all the Penguin reps, and despite the reviews and all that, just didn't happen in hardcover. So paperback, True Story. Megan Abbott, who I talked about last week, reviewed it last year in the New York Times, and she calls it spellbinding. Petty leaps from genre to genre with dizzying velocity to show the way trauma works on us, how it shapes our lived experience, tantalizing us with the truth about what really happened to Alice. So hope people discover True Story in paperback.
I was just looking because I think I started to listen to it on Libro, but
Oh,
I think it's one of those books that you need to read because of the
yeah.
because of the form. You know what I
think
mean?
it would be hard. It could be great on audio, but it also might be hard. That
Yeah,
way
and that
because
I
of
think
that,
was
yeah.
and I think that was one of the things. But the story was great because I got anyways, I digress completely now because I can't even.
Well, and we
I
changed
did.
the cover. It's a slightly different cover.
A
You
little
did,
bit
really.
different, but yeah, no, it's really good. But I think that
Yeah.
the form is better, I think, in print than in
Absolutely. Sometimes that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I was missing on the audio because I love the play with different forms of what they do. So
yeah, it's totally fun. But you're right. It wouldn't. It would be harder on audio.
Yeah. So no, that's it. But the story's great. The story part of it though was really good, really fascinating. So I do.
New York Times called it a spellbinding debut.
There you go.
Yes, it was indeed.
There you go. Okay, I'm going to just leave everybody with Happy Warwick's Day. No, I'm kidding. But also,
did we mention it was Warwick's Day?
Yeah, it was Warwick's Day today. Warwick's Day, 125th anniversary, everybody. Check out our website. We've got some great events coming up, and we're announcing new stuff for the fall almost daily. So keep looking out at that. If you're not on our email list, get on that because every week we're putting some new stuff. We've got there's great stuff in the fall coming. This week we've got some great events too. So check out our website, get on our email list. And with that, great Rex today, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for coming. And we're going to turn off Facebook and stop the recording. So good night, everybody.